Thank you for tuning into my channel. Welcome to a new video. In this video, I'm going to address some of the mistakes I've made as a photographer, some mistakes I read that other photographers have made, and maybe by sharing this with you, these are mistakes that you can avoid, and it will save you money and time and a lot of frustration probably. So let's get into it. What are some of the mistakes that I have made in the past 5-6 years since running my business, being a photographer, having my studio? Yeah, some mistakes are a little bit embarrassing. Some mistakes are just things that can happen. I'm a human being, but I'm just going to share them with you and hopefully you can learn something from it. When I just started, I only had one camera, and sometimes a camera can stop working. There's a shutter count, and after using the camera for so many clicks, it can stop working. And if you only have one camera with you and it stops working in the middle of a session, it's not good. So yeah, having a backup camera has saved me a few times. I changed cameras, and the cameras have different buttons assigned to different functions. So changing my ISO on one camera would result in changing my image quality on my other camera. So I've had it happen in the middle of a shoot that I changed my ISO, I thought, and I took a few photos and I was like, why didn't my ISO change? And then I realized I changed my image quality completely. So your camera can take photos in RAW, in JPEG Fine, in JPEG medium, and JPEG low probably, and yeah, you have a very small file when you photograph in the lowest JPEG quality. So if you want to print it large, it's not going to be super sharp and crisp. So make sure that you don't accidentally change your image quality when you want to change something else on your camera. You can always check it in between the session a few times if your image quality is still the highest, so that you don't take beautiful photos and then you come home and you realize they're not suitable for prints and they're actually in a very low quality. I have made the mistake that I didn't change back my white balance after shooting in a hospital. So sometimes I shoot as a volunteer for an organization called Early Birds, and you take photos of babies who were born premature in the hospital. So in the hospital you have very different light. I normally shoot with my white balance, which I set for the studio or which I set for outside. But when I go to the hospital, I change my white balance so that in my editing, I don't have to adjust it that much anymore. And I forgot to put it back. So I was shooting a newborn session. I'm like, why is that baby so blue? Then I realized I forgot to change my white balance back. So I had to edit the photos a little bit more. In the end result, you didn't see it, but it still took me extra time. So when you change your white balance, don't forget to change it back. I have used the wrong name for a baby's father for an entire session. I thought I knew his name because the parents didn't correct me, so I just called him by the wrong name the whole session. And at the end of the session, the mom told me that his name was not whatever I was calling him, but it was a different name. And then you feel pretty awkward, but they thought it was quite funny. It has happened to me also that I have set up for a newborn girl, and they came in and it turned out to be a newborn boy, because some names can be pretty unisex, and I just assumed it was a little girl. So I had set up a pink background, I put headbands ready, some peachy pink backdrop layers. It was all ready when they came in. And I got a little bit confused when the baby was, covered in blue blankets and having blue outfits and stuff. So I think I actually called her like, oh, she's so beautiful. And they were like, it's a boy. And then I was like, just give me 1 second. Can I change the backdrop? No worries. So now I have the clients fill in a booking form. And they also mention the gender of the baby and the colors that they like for the shoot. So yeah, what has happened to me as well is that I was at a wedding and I had my camera bag, and on the top of my camera bag I had an extra lens and an extra flash, I think, just some stuff. And I thought I had closed my camera bag properly, It wasn't closed at the top, and I actually swung it onto my bag because we were leaving. And as I did that, I launched my macro lens all the way to the living room, and they had like these tiles on the floor, and it just fell on the floor. So the whole wedding, I thought I broke it, but then I took some ring shots and it was still working, and I came home, it was still working. Yeah, but half of the day I thought I broke my lens because it just went flying through the living room, because I was just very enthusiastically putting my backpack on my back and it wasn't closed. I once had people showing up to my studio and I wasn't there. So actually the flower shop next door, they called me on my cell phone. Where are you? We have some clients here at the studio. I was on my way back home. I went shopping in town and I thought I didn't have a session at that time. But apparently I did have a session. Normally the parents confirm by email, and then I sent them an email before the session with my phone number and just some last minute reminders. I gave them a few options by email. They replied to me in my booking form, the option that they chose. I had scanned their booking form, but somehow it didn't make the connection that they were not in my calendar yet, so they were standing here in front of the studio. It took me about 15 minutes to get here, so they had to wait 15 minutes in the car. It was a maternity session, so there was no baby involved yet. Well, there was, but not a crying baby in the car or something. But I felt pretty embarrassed because I just opened their booking form. I filed the booking form in the right folder, and I never really realized that they confirmed the date in the booking form instead of in a separate email. From now on, I'm reading my booking forms. I was so happy it wasn't a cake smash shoot, because that would have, otherwise I wouldn't have had a cake. What else? So once it actually happened that I didn't order a cake for a cake smash session. That was pretty bad. I had someone contacting me about a cake smash session, and so right now I'm in the studio waiting for a newborn session, and I can just add another mistake to my list right now as we sit here, because I don't let my clients pay a retainer. I am thinking about it because I was supposed to have a newborn session now at 10. It's 20 past 10. The lady is not answering her phone. She didn't fill out my booking form yet. She didn't reply to my email I sent yesterday asking her again to fill out my booking form and to confirm that today is the shoot at 10 o'clock. I think it's a no-show. So I'm here in the studio. I've been here for an hour setting up, cleaning. I'm not heating up the space, but in the winter I would have been heating up the space. Right now I don't have to because it's warm enough. But anyway, I'm here waiting for her and she might not show. She's not responding. She hasn't been responding to my emails since the day before yesterday. That should have been a red flag. But I always assume, they're so busy with their newborn. And she did pick out today because she emailed me last week, that her baby was born. So I told her I still have an opening for you then or then, and she picked today. She gave me the name of her son. I do have her phone number, but she's just not replying. And I asked her which color she liked for this shoot and for her to fill out my booking form. She didn't reply to that email, and then she didn't reply to the email I sent her yesterday, again asking her to fill out my booking form. And now she's not answering her phone and they're not here yet. So that is maybe a mistake I have to add to my list, is not asking a retainer, like just a booking fee that reserves the spot. Because then maybe people will take my time seriously as well. I'm running a business, I am a mother, someone is with my kids right now, I'm here in the studio. I could have done something else. I could have scheduled another session. I've had people asking me for sessions and I told them I was fully booked. And now they're not showing up. Not cool. But now I can continue finishing this video. I didn't know this was gonna happen, but that was a mistake I didn't add to my list I was gonna read for you guys. So yeah, I was talking about the cake. I once had parents asking for a cake smash session, so I gave them all the information. And I was asking them which cake they wanted to order. They didn't give me the cake details yet, but I did ask them, okay, for the cake you have to transfer 30 euros, mentioning the name of the child when you transfer the money, and then please let me know which cake you want to order. I think he was saying like, can I pay for the cake later? And I said, no, I have to have the money for the cake at least like a week before the session, because then I ordered the cake for you. Preferably 2 weeks before the session, but at least, you know, 10 days or a week before the session. And he didn't reply to that. Apparently he transferred the money that day for the cake, but I never got an email back from him saying which cake he wanted to order. And then I realized in my calendar there was the cake session, and I didn't have a cake. So I contacted the parents. I didn't order your cake because I never heard back from you after you told me that you wanted to transfer the money of the cake after the session, or like on the day of the session. So I was still waiting for your reply, and he was like, you didn't order a cake. I transferred the money to your account, and in the description I said which cake I wanted. I was like, I was waiting for your reply on my email. So then he ran to the bakery, he got a cake there, and of course the 30 euros that he transferred for the cake was deducted from the session fee. Anyway, yeah, so that was the one time I didn't have a cake for a cake smash session. Other mistakes that I've made in the past: charging too little, giving away too many files. I've never really made the mistake of giving unedited files or raw files, because I think those files are not my finished product. It's not something that the client should have and should use. They book me for my photos. I want to give them a beautiful finished product, which can be a digital file, but still edited and picked out by me. Yeah, another mistake I've made is overshooting and then giving away too many files for a wedding. That was, I actually got that feedback from the bride. She said, I love your photos, but you just gave us too many photos, like too many similar photos. She would have been happy with 600 edited photos. I gave her like 1500 photos. So I learned from my mistake. I shoot less and I give less, but all the photos are really good. Another mistake is not setting business hours, putting my phone number on the internet, and then not having a separate business phone so people could just call me whenever they wanted. Now I have taken my phone number kind of like off the internet, and I do have business hours, and I do turn off my phone, and I still work at night as well, answering my emails, but that works for me at this moment. Another mistake is maybe like buying cheap props or cheap equipment that will break and it just costs you money, or props that you don't really like actually, but you just bought it because everybody else has it and then you never use it. I bought some cheap flashes which broke, some cheap triggers which broke. Another mistake that I made is comparing myself to others. I have my own unique style, and I hope that other photographers have their own unique style and they don't just copy whatever I'm doing. You can be inspired by others, but just give your own twist to it. Be creative, create art, and don't just copy an exact set from another photographer. Try to be a little bit creative. I sometimes get inspired by others and then I create something that looks maybe a little bit similar, but it's still different. I have my own editing style. Another mistake is getting behind on editing, like having so many sessions during the day, which is possible and which you love and which gives you so much energy, but then you don't realize that you have to edit all those photo shoots as well, and maybe the next day is full of sessions as well, and then you don't really have time to edit and you get behind on editing, and then maybe you cannot fulfill your promises that you make to clients, because sometimes clients are waiting for the photos for birth announcements or birthday invitations, and then when you get so behind on editing, they're waiting. I once left my battery charger with my camera battery at a wedding venue because I kind of forgot to charge all my batteries at home. So I was shooting with a full battery, but my other battery was empty. So I thought I could just charge it at the wedding venue. But of course, I always leave phones and chargers and batteries and chargers behind. So I was actually already back home. It was like a 2-hour drive, and then I realized I forgot my battery charger and my battery at the wedding venue. But the wedding venue was nice enough to send them to me. So I got a package a few days later with my battery charger and my battery. But yeah, that's why I'm always scared to charge my phone anywhere else. I've left my phone at like an indoor kids playground once because my kids were playing there and I was charging my phone, and then we just leave and go home, and it was there, it was closed, and I had to pick it up the next day. So yeah, whenever I'm charging something somewhere which is not at home, I tend to forget it. So yeah, what are some of the most common mistakes? I think those are mistakes which have something to do with batteries and memory cards. I've heard photographers, very experienced, very well-known photographers, forgetting to put a memory card in their camera and then trying to shoot a session. Usually your camera will tell you that there's no memory card inside, and then hopefully you will have a memory card somewhere in your camera bag or somewhere nearby so you can insert it. But yeah, whenever I'm shooting a wedding or I'm going to the studio, I always check like at least 2 times before leaving the home that there are 2 memory cards in my camera and that they still have plenty of space left. And I have made the mistakes to put the memory card setting on overflow, so that when one memory card is full, it'll take the next memory card and continue photographing on the second one. If your camera has the option to photograph on 2 memory cards at the same time, please use that option, because a memory card can always break when you insert it into your computer or in your card reader to open the files on your computer. It can say that there is an error and it cannot read the card anymore. If that happens, I mean, it's gonna cost you probably a lot of money to recover the files. You have to get a special program, but it's gonna take you at least a lot of time, and you're gonna be afraid that you'll never see the photos again, and you might not ever see the photos again. So if your camera has the option to photograph on 2 memory cards simultaneously, use that option. Yeah, I remember at one time I photographed a birth, and I was so scared that something would happen to my memory cards. I photographed on 2 cards at the same time that I took 1 card out and I actually put it in my bra just in case my bag would get stolen on the way home and I would lose all the photos from the birth, because you cannot reshoot a birth. I was actually in the she had an emergency C-section, so I got to photograph the C-section. I was wearing this cool outfit that, you know, doctors wear. It can happen. But anyway, nothing happened and I had the photos. Immediately after I got home, I put the photos on my computer. You can accidentally put your ISO really high, like when you go from an outdoor, like when you go from an indoor location to an outdoor location, and you can forget to change your ISO, so it might be still super high. You can realize that your photos will be very bright and light and maybe even overexposed. But yeah, if you forget to lower your ISO and you don't need to shoot with a high ISO, you might get a lot of grain in your photos, which is unnecessary. So that's a mistake that can happen. I guess that's it for now. I'm gonna head home because the clients are just not showing up, which is not cool. Yeah, that's a mistake that I'm currently making probably. It's not asking like a retainer, a booking fee. I've had no-shows before for sitter sessions. I've never had them for cake smash sessions because I do charge the 30 euros for the cake, and maybe that is like an extra impulse for people to come. I've never had a no-show for a newborn session until today. That sucks. I've done it for 6 years. And now I'm like, you know, all the other people show up nicely. They don't have to pay anything in advance. They just pay the full amount on the day of the session, usually at the session. Oh yeah, another mistake. While I'm talking, so many mistakes. Once I had a cake smash session and the mom didn't pay yet. She wanted to pay after the session and I told her that was okay. Normally they pay right here. So yeah, I even paid the cake for her and she was so excited. She took photos with her phone, like backstage photos, which at that time I thought it was okay because they're not, you can compare those images to the images that I take with my camera, but maybe those images are good enough for some people. So she didn't pay the cake, she didn't pay the session yet. I did send her her preview And I uploaded her gallery while I was still waiting for her payment. So yeah, she got that preview with my logo, but maybe that was enough for her. She got the photo she took with her own phone. She got the gallery, even though it does say do not copy on the images. I mean, she could have taken screenshots. And she never paid. So I could like send an agency to try to collect the payment. I've sent several emails, I tried stuff. It just takes me so much energy. So those are mistakes that you can make. So make sure that people pay you, maybe even in advance. And make sure you have your SD cards. Oh yeah, another thing I did, put your SD cards in your camera after you've emptied them on your computer, and then forget to format them. Because then maybe your SD card is empty when you insert it on your computer, but it's not completely empty yet. So maybe you can only take 100 photos and then it's full again, even though it was empty, but you forgot to format it. And then if you format your card in your camera, that's when it's completely empty and you can start taking photos. So those kind of things, pay attention to SD cards and batteries. Maybe have a backup camera, and don't leave stuff behind. Never forget your camera when you show up for a session. Check your settings before a shoot, your white balance, your image quality, your ISO, and learn from maybe my mistakes, your mistakes, mistakes of others. I'm gonna get out of here because I'm just sitting here doing nothing. Maybe I will go to the hardwood store and buy wood and create a really cool backdrop and forget about just sitting here waiting for nothing, but creating a beautiful video for you guys. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Again, I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was going everywhere. I hope I kind of made sense. Have a lovely day. And then I would love to read in the comments which mistakes you made as a photographer, so we can help each other prevent mistakes. Oh yeah, backups. Always create backups. So have special extra hard disk. Yeah, whenever something crashes, you still have your files. I hope you have a nice day. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment, and bye bye.